Clark County will have a new sheriff in January. Clark County Chief Criminal Deputy John Horch defeated Vancouver Police Corporal Ray Reynolds to win the top job. Horch has been with Clark County for more than 30 years. He will lead a team of transition for the sheriff's office amid concerns over the oversight of the Clark County Jail, questions over the use of force, and tensions with Clark County's minority communities. I spoke with the sheriff-elect earlier this week by Zoom.
Sheriff-elect John Horch, welcome back to EONWP Politics, and congratulations.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you for having me again.
Let's start out with the status of the jail. Clark County councilors recently voted to take control of the jail away from the sheriff's office and hand it over to the county manager. What are your concerns, if any, about that?
Well, I'll go back to when this occurred in September. The news came on, and I was a little bit concerned about the process and on what took place, and I asked them to possibly hold off on the vote until January, until a new council and a new sheriff had been elected. There was 4 new positions coming in, so I asked them to wait for that, and that was my initial concern, was to get the new people in there to make this decision. Now that they voted on it and it's gone through and the transition has started, I've been working with them. It's gone fairly smooth. I'm working with the new jail services director and the county council and the county manager with that process. And so far, there's a lot to be done. I won't say that it's an easy process, but we are moving through the transition smoothly so far.
Give me an idea of why this move was made in the first place. What's the explanation for taking it out of your hands?
Well, I mean, if you pull up their reasons, they said, and I have to believe them, one is they wanted to have somebody full-time commitment to the jail, the issues with the jail, someone to look over it completely. The sheriff's purview is 450 employees, and if you just have a jail services, then it goes down to about 250. So they wanted to concentrate and get these problems corrected under one division and not have it all underneath the sheriff's office. Other agencies, I believe 5 other sheriff's offices in Washington have done this model as well. So it's not the first time it's been done. So it has worked well in other agencies and in other counties, should I say. But there is a transition period, and there are things that have to get worked through. So some people believe that it should always stay under the sheriff's purview. Other agencies, it's worked otherwise. The main concern I've had, and I said the first night I had any concerns, was it's about public safety and the employee safety and the inmate safety. We want to make sure everybody's safe and it's the best for the community. That's my overall concern. Who runs it at the end of the day, if they're running it efficiently, with all those things in mind, I think that's what the public's really concerned about. So at the end of the day, as we get through this, we'll know more in the next few months, and probably take up to a year to kind of see where this lands with everything. So I'm helping with that process. In fact, we just had some discussions yesterday, and we're moving forward with getting all the people and the processes switched over.
As far as you know, what impact will it have on your budget or your staffing? I know you have staffing issues within the sheriff's office.
Yeah, so I'll just use a general number. Let's say the jail was about 40% of the budget. So that budget money gets moved over to the jail services, which with bodies and the other equipment or logistics that might go with this. So it gets moved over there. So I don't have any authority over that budget. So my budget got cut into about 40%, which makes sense if they're going to take over. So it won't affect our staffing.
The Pierce County Sheriff's Office was asked to investigate a use of force incident in the jail from August of last year. It happened to involve a African-American detainee. What's the status of that investigation, and are there any changes in personnel or policy because of it?
So the status of the investigation, it went to our prosecuting attorney's office several months ago, I believe back in March or April. Our prosecuting attorney's office had a different group look at it, I believe out of Pierce County, like you said, excuse me. And then they gave it back to our prosecuting attorney, who gave it to the city prosecuting attorney to make a decision, charging decision, whether charges are going to be filed or not. I believe at this time it is still in their hands. It's been almost 8-9 months now since that was started, the investigation. So that person we've had an internal review, and we've looked at our policies, and that person has been gone through our internal affairs process, and has been brought back to work as of this point.
Some members of the community have expressed concerns about diversity and equity within the sheriff's office and in dealings with minority communities in general in Clark County. What's your response to those concerns? And is diversity and equity in terms of law enforcement on the street, how important is that to you?
Well, obviously, this is we want to be transparent and authentic in law enforcement because we serve all communities. And I know some people in the past there have been issues in law enforcement. I don't think we want to shy away from that. We've seen injustices that have happened throughout time and throughout the country. We have a very robust internal affairs process, and that we look at incidents if they come up, and a review process that we go through things. And we have community groups that we're involved in. So we have the relationships. It's all about relationships. So when an incident comes up, you already have people who have met with each other, who understand and come to the table. Now, we may not always agree, but building those relationships is key for when an incident does come up and it involves a minority community, so we can get through it. And so the language that we all speak, everyone can understand it, and that there's trust. I know that's a number one thing. I want the public to trust us. They may not always agree with the decision I make, but I want them to know I'm doing it honestly, and I'm doing it fairly and impartially to all members of the community. And I push that down through my staff and to the line level, because that line level is really who has the dealings with people on calls. What I believe is one thing. If they're not practicing it, then I'm not getting it down to them. And that's one thing we want to impress. And I'll also talk about our demographics in Clark County are changing. I know you've been in this area for a long time, and it is changing. You know, we're becoming more part of the Portland metropolitan area, and our staffing needs to reflect that as well. And we make a concerted effort for that. I've spoke about that at forums when I was campaigning, that we make a concerted effort of including different groups and reaching out to different groups about getting involved in law enforcement and what we can do to help that. So our recruiting efforts are also geared that way as well.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about staffing. What's your staffing situation in Clark County right now? And are you happy with the direction that it's going?
Okay. So in law enforcement in general, the last few years was pretty tough. No matter what state or where you were, Washington State got hit pretty hard for some of these laws that changed, and police didn't want to be police officers in Washington State anymore. I spoke with you back in August about that we are seeing the pendulum come back, and we just had a hiring event about 2 weeks ago where we've had, I wouldn't say record numbers, but people are applying again. We're getting people through the door, and it's very positive news that people want to get involved in law enforcement again, and they're applying. I think we had 36 apply and pass the test 2 weeks ago. Last year, or even in August when I talked to you, we were getting 3 or 4 a month. And so we've seen a turnaround already, and they're also applying for corrections as well. All in law enforcement, people are starting to apply again. We're still taking laterals. So our staffing does seem to be on the turnaround. We're not there yet. Average time takes about a year to 1.5 years to get someone fully trained. The police academy is an issue for staffing, and I'll tell you that right now is we're working on a Southwest Washington Regional Academy because right now our wait time is 5, 6, 7 months to send someone to the police academy. And in the meantime, they sit around the office and we give them jobs, but they're not learning actual police procedures. So we're working on getting an academy down here that has the governor's support and all the legislator support and all the community support. So that's one thing that will help us with our staffing as well, is spreading the academies throughout the state of Washington. Our staffing is turning around, but we still are in a hole. That is correct.
Last thing, Vancouver Police, they're rolling out their body camera program, and I know you push for that in Clark County as well for your deputies. Could we see body cameras for Clark County Sheriff's deputies during your administration?
Absolutely. You will see them. There's no doubt in my mind. Just 2 hours ago, I was at a public safety tax meeting. Our county council supports them. We just passed a tax in August specifically for body cameras. We've been working on this program. We just didn't have the funding for it. My vision for it, if the perfect plan would be to obviously roll it out as fast as we can, but it takes a little bit of time. Body cameras aren't just putting a camera on an officer, turning it, record, and that's that. There's IT issues, there's public disclosure request issues, and there's training issues, policies and procedures involving the public in the policies and procedures of when the camera's on and off. I envision us ordering the cameras equipment probably at the end of this year, or beginning of next year, and a third and a third and a third. Third going out next fall, and then a third the following spring, and then the next summer or the following fall. So I believe it'll take up to 2 years to fully implement.
Sheriff-elect John Horch, thank you for coming back to Eye on Northwest Politics, and good luck to you starting in January.
All right, thank you, Mr. Body.